Hi, hey, hello, how's it going? It's Emily, and today is the start of some very exciting vlogs coming up. Fall is absolutely my favorite season to read, my favorite season to go outside. I just come to life in the fall. Love everything about it. So this is going to be a fun series of vlogs. We are starting specifically for this vlog a series of hopefully 3, maybe 2, we'll see. I'm going to be vlogging for the Magical Readathon, and I'll put the announcement down below and make sure that that's there for you. But this is a super fun readathon that G from Book Roast hosts a couple of times a year, and we're just gonna pretend that I actually finished the spring round. So I did one vlog for the spring round of Magical Readathon, never posted the second one or finished that. We're just gonna pretend that I did and continue on. So my character is going for a career as a wild form druid, which in this magical academy is the training course to be a wild form druid, is like the environmental protection profession career in this world. And so of course that's the one I'm going for. And so as I said, we're going to pretend I finished the spring round and we're just going to dive right into the fall round. And I've got some notes on my phone here to make sure I go through this. We're going to go through my entire TBR here for the month of September. That will go across, as I said, hopefully multiple vlogs, and we're gonna go through all of it here. I'll continue to hopefully go back and again just remind which books are for which prompts, but I just want to lay everything out here and go through the one prompt that is a kind of in the moment figure something out to figure out what book you want to do for that prompt. So wild form druid needs to go through all 3 prompts in animal studies, so that includes the first one being a phoenix on the cover or in the title. So this one I'm going to skip for the moment. I actually think I was watching G's TBR video, and I think she had the new TJ Klune book that's a follow-up to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I am very excited about. Is that a phoenix on the cover? I'll put an image of the cover here. If so, that's definitely an option. It comes out in September, but I think with the number of books that I have on this list, I don't know, we'll see, but I'll put that as an option to maybe do a little bit later, and we'll just postpone that one a little bit and pretend that I'm doing it now. Again, we're doing a lot of workarounds here, but it's fine. The other thing I have is the Crown of Feathers series by Nikki Palpretto. I've read The Bonesmith from Nikki Palpretto and really loved it, and I was already intrigued by this series. So that is another option. I at least have them on audio, I think. So that's another option. It follows a pair of sisters who are Phoenix writers, so we're just gonna postpone this one and do one of those 2 options, okay? And we are supposed to read these in order, but again, she's not gonna come after me, right? So the next prompt for animal studies is to read a standalone. So for that one, I'm gonna do You Again by Kate Goldbeck, and yeah, this is a contemporary romance. I've started the first few chapters this morning, so I'll talk through that one in just a minute. The third prompt for animal studies is a book that had a cover change, so I think I can just do basically any fairy loot because they're all going to come with unique covers. Even if it draws on the original cover art, they always do something to change it. But this is Bonded by Thorns, and I'm super excited about this one. This was I think an indie published book that has now been traditionally published, and they did this one for their Romantasy book box. And the original cover, I'll put an image of the original cover here, definitely looks very different. This might be the US version versus a UK one, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, the cover is very different, and they did a unique cover for their edition. I'm so excited about this one. I'll talk more about these books once I actually start reading them, so I'm not going to give a synopsis here. The next one is I need to read 2 books for Art of Illusion, and the first prompt there is Random Emoji Generator. So this is the one that I can't plan for, so I have pulled up can you even see this. Okay, we're gonna try to do it at an angle here. I've pulled up a random emoji generator and we're just gonna click generate. Okay. Oh, okay. Orange square is what came up here. So that's interesting. I'll need to think about what I want to do for orange square. Maybe just something with orange on the cover. Whatever. We will consider that. I didn't realize that was a separate emoji, but okay. The emoji generator has spoken. So we'll figure that one out later. The next prompt and the final one I need for Art of Illusion is to read a prequel. And guess which prequel is the only one that I actually have in physical form on my TBR. Have you guessed? Yeah, Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, which is a freaking brick of a book. So this is going to be another one that I'm going to put off. I will be reading this. I am excited about it. That's why I have it. But with everything else going on this TBR, I don't think I'm going to get to this yet. So we will put this one on hold and we will count this as this prompt, but I'm getting an extension from the professor. We're going to read this brick a little bit later and count it. Okay. So that's Art of Illusion. I only need one book for astronomy, and I just need the first prompt, and that is a book that was released in your birth month. It doesn't matter what year, just a book that was released in your birth month. Mine happens to be April, and I can tell you because I remember getting this in April at Indie Bookstore Day. The Familiar was released in April of this year. So I'm very excited. I specifically was saving it for spooky season, so this is absolutely perfect. Again, I don't remember specifically again the details of this one, but we'll worry about that later once I'm actually reading it, as I said. So the next prompts are for restoration, and the first prompt for restoration is night sky on the cover. So I think I'm gonna go with Cage of Dreams. Like, does that count? I think that counts as a night sky. Like, it's clearly a cityscape. There are stars. It looks like it's a night sky on the cover. So we're gonna go with this one. Very excited. I think this is a duology, so I'll be finishing a duology, I think. Anyway, I'll double check that before I start reading it. The next prompt is to read a book with a poisonous plant on the cover or the name of a poisonous plant in the title, which is kind of perfect because I want to read The Hemlock Queen. So hemlock is a poisonous plant, and this is the follow-up to The Foxglove King, I believe, is what that first one was called. So I had so much fun with that one. Very excited to continue the series, so that worked out super well. Okay, the next one and the final prompt for restoration is to read a book that has a title, or in the title there's a verb, an action word, and so I think I'm gonna go with Sleep Like Death. This is set in the same world as Cinderella is Dead, I believe, which I didn't absolutely love, but I believe that was her debut, and she has written some books since, and so we love seeing growth in the writing as an author continues to write books, and so I'm definitely excited to give this author another try. Hopefully I'll really love this one. Very stunning cover, and yeah, I'm just counting sleep as the verb there. So love that I was able to fit that one in. So the final three prompts are all for shape-shifting, and the first one is jewelry on the cover. So I'm going with A Curse of Blood and Wolves, and we can see her earrings there. So counting that as jewelry on the cover. This is another book that came in the Romantasy box for Fairy Loot, and definitely deals with the woods, and it just seemed like very vibey for this time of year, so I figured it would be fun to save it for this time of year. The next prompt is a planet name in the title, which I can't really do with any physical book that I have on my TBR. And I'm really wanting to get my physical TBR down. So the closest I'm going to be able to get is Beneath These Cursed Stars. It at least has star in the title, so some sort of celestial word in the title. I'm going with it's close enough. And this is, I think, in the same world as, what is the first book in this duology, whatever. She's written a duology. This is her most recent duology, and I think it's set in the same world. I absolutely loved that duology, and so I'm excited for another book set in that world. And so, again, I'll talk more about that once I actually read it. But the final book is, the prompt is a compass on the cover. Again, not one that I could actually find, but I'm gonna go with the Atlas Complex for this one. I think, does this count as a compass? It kind of looks like it's supposed to be the silhouette of a compass. So, I mean, it doesn't specifically have the directions on there, but it looks like it's supposed to be a compass, right? So, and I guess it's on the sprayed edge rather than on the cover, but we're gonna go with that because I think that's as close as we're gonna get. So it's the third book after the Atlas 6, and so I'm very excited to complete that trilogy. So that is the plan for September. So even outside of the 2 that I said I was skipping, that's 10 books, which is a pretty, like, that's a typical reading month for me, which is why I know the prequel to Prior of the Orange Tree is not going to be happening, because even with the rest of the books, like, that's a normal reading month for me. So we'll see what can happen, but yeah, that is the plan, to meet the prompts for this round of the Magical Readathon. So let's go back to you again. I just read a few chapters this morning. Since it was starting this morning, I decided to just go ahead and listen to a few chapters as I was getting ready and throughout the morning. And so in this one, you're following Ari and Josh. Ari is, and the first few chapters are them meeting. It kind of goes back into the past of them when they first met, and then, you know, they've kind of randomly run into each other a few times throughout the years. And so, of course, the first couple of meetings don't really go well. The first one involves, you know, he's dating her, or has started dating her roommate. He's a chef, and so he's coming to cook her dinner as, you know, part of a date, and he arrives earlier than she does. She's running late, and Ari didn't realize that he was coming over until he was already there, and that's when she saw the text from her roommate, like, oh, can you please let him in? Like, I'm running late, and we're supposed to have a date tonight. And so he's there prepping some things for this dinner while she's there. And, you know, they don't really get off to a great start. They run into each other a couple of other times at various, you know, at a party or in a restaurant that he's working at, and that her friend, is it her friend or someone she's dating at the time? Anyway, works at. And so these run-ins have not gone well, especially the first 2. The third one is starting to get a little, they have a moment, you know, a bit of a moment in the third time they've interacted. And so ultimately I think they're going to come back into each other's lives, and I think they're going to try to be, is it friends with benefits? Is that what they're, no, friends without benefits. But they're to develop a friendship, and then, you know, things go from there, I think. Anyway, of course, the cover is so fall that I had to save this for the fall. And if this isn't a super fall book, I'm gonna be real sad about it, because this cover just screams fall with all the leaves. So hopefully this will just have some fall vibes in there. But I'm enjoying the first few chapters, not really much else to say at the moment, but I will be reading this as I continue doing, I think there's a bit of cleaning that I want to go ahead and get done today. So I'll be continuing this one, and I will just be hoping that I can check in. This is going to be the first one I've done in a while that is actually just following chronologically how I'm reading rather than just if I have a group of books that I want to put in a vlog, just filming clips as I can as I'm reading those books, no matter what order or, you know, how long in between I'm actually, or how long it is between reading these books. So we'll see how this goes and whether I'm able to actually keep up with filming clips for these vlogs. But I'm hoping that I can do a few magical readathon vlogs and post them relatively on time, but who knows, whatever. Anyway, I will continue reading You Again, and yeah, we'll check in later. So checking in, it is Thursday, so I've had my couple of commute days where it's hard to check in. So I have finished You Again and most of my next book, but anyway, I really did enjoy this one. I had a lot of fun with it. Again, we're following Ari and Josh, and they've had some interactions in the past that haven't always gone well, but in one of these interactions, they just start to talk a bit more, or maybe something funny happens and they kind of share a moment, and you know, they're starting to talk a bit more as they're running into each other in their circle. And, you know, these interactions are becoming a bit more frequent, so at first, you know, they're pretty spread out, but you're kind of jumping through time as different things are happening in their relationship. And, you know, they start talking more, they eventually become close friends, and which can be difficult for her because of the interactions that he's had with some of her friends as well, or anyway. So, you know, it's complicated. She doesn't necessarily want to get into a relationship. She's kind of reeling from her previous relationship and how that ended, and she doesn't really trust relationships. She just, for her, she's never really had a good model of a relationship working out, either for herself or for some people around her. And so, you know, she's reeling from that experience and really finding it hard to learn to rely on someone, learn to fall in love with someone in that way. So when that starts happening, you know, she's freaking out in particular. They kind of both are, but, you know, don't always react the best way, don't always make the best decisions, but it's really them kind of just coming to terms with how you go from being a friend to being more than a friend, and, you know, placing your trust in someone, finding roots with someone. So it was a fun time. It was a fun time. And the New York vibes were really fun in this one. Again, you're kind of jumping across different points in time, but there still were pretty good fall, winter vibes in New York. So I had a good time with that one. So I am most of the way through my next book, which is Bonded by Thorns, and this is by Elizabeth Helen. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I love me a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I will read that and be a sucker for it pretty much every time, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this one. We're following our main character, Rosalina, who is our Belle character, and her dad is definitely our Maurice character, kind of the village oddball. He is doing what he can to try to find her mom, and yeah, so there's that situation going on. She runs the local, or not runs, but she works at the local bookstore and loves being around books all the time. She's of course a bookworm, which we love, and is trying to expand the collection at the bookstore, is having some issues with her interactions with the owner of the bookstore. Anyway, so she at one point is concerned about where her dad has gone in search of her mom, and it seems like he might have found his way to the Fey realm, which she didn't actually believe existed. And so she's trying to follow the trail there, kind of follow the path to him there, and of course comes across our castle. You know, there are goblins involved, and there's a Gaston character too. She's had an on-again, off-again thing with someone in town who is an asshole, of course. And so he has asked her to marry him. She hasn't really responded, but, you know, he and I think there's someone else too who have gone in search of her dad. They kind of bolt out of there. She makes it past the goblins, finds our castle, and there are 4 Fae princes. One prince for the winter, spring, summer, autumn court. And castle is not really in great shape. There are these thorns growing everywhere, and this plant material and these thorns growing everywhere. So her dad had made his way there, and when she followed him in, she realizes that he has been put in the dungeon for trespassing, and she takes his place, and then is moved up to a room. She's getting to know the princes more and realizes that there's this curse going on. And anyways, trying to figure out more about the curse, and has made a deal to get her freedom if she's able to help them lift the curse. So that's kind of the setup here. And of course, things start happening. This is a reverse harem wide shoes. So she doesn't necessarily just fall for one prince, I'll say. And they've been stuck there for the princes have been stuck there for 25 years with this curse, where they are turned into various beasts at night, is kind of the gist of the curse. One of them doesn't have very good control over himself when he's in this beast form. Anyway, so she's trying to help them figure this out and try to help them find their mate, because they think them finding their kind of fated mate, which is pretty common Fae trope or Fae thing. So she's hoping that when they find their fated mate, the curse will lift. And so she's trying to help them do that. And of course, is she all of their fated mate? Who knows? We'll see. So she might be the fated mate to 4 different Fae princes, and is just figuring out her feelings, and it's just been a fun time. It's been a fun time. So yeah, that's how that's going. So I'll finish this one. I think I have maybe an hour left in the audiobook, so I'll finish that. I didn't realize this is a 4-book series. Well, by the time this video comes out, the 4th book will be out. It's coming out next Tuesday as I'm filming this clip. So it'll be a 4-book series by the time this video is out. I didn't quite realize this, but this is something that I think might happen, especially with the romantasy fairy loot books, because I think a handful of them so far, I think, were originally indie published and then now have been traditionally published and then picked up by Fairy Loot as well for a special edition. So, if they've been indie published for a while, the authors might have continued the series since then. So that's the case with this one. So that's fun. And we'll see what happens. I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens in this last little bit. I will say the romantic tension is definitely kind of built up pretty slowly. I actually really like the pacing of how they've done that. This is definitely a smutty book. There's definitely a lot of steam and spice, but I do appreciate how she's kind of building the tension between Rosalina and the princes relatively slowly. I appreciate that. So I think that pacing, at least for me, has been pretty good. So as I said, I'll finish this. The 3rd book, let me grab it real quick. So I had done the random emoji generator for Orange Square, and what I decided to do was something orange on the cover. And although the orange isn't predominantly, or the cover isn't predominantly orange, there are these orange fish here and on the sprayed edge, and then it's kind of a similar back as well. So I'm counting that just because it kind of stands out on the cover and is just definitely a very prominent orange thing on the cover. So we're counting it as good enough. And I have the audiobook, I'm on the wait list, and I'm first in line for the audiobook, but there's only one copy, so I'm dependent on whoever currently has it, either finishing it or their 3-week hold coming to an end before I can get to it, unless they put another copy in their library. So we'll see. Maybe I'll actually be able to get to this and start this next, or maybe I'll just skip to my next book and then come back to this one, depending on when I actually get access to the audiobook. So we'll see. Anyway, I will keep you updated. So it is a couple of days later. It is Sunday the 8th, so about a week after I've started this vlog, and I have finished Bonded by Thorns. It is upstairs and I'm not going to get it, but I've held it up in previous clips, so that'll be good enough. And definitely had fun with the end of this one. I'm very excited to continue the series. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it and just intrigued to see where things go. So definitely, as I said, excited to continue that one. And then I finished that one on Thursday, not too long after, or like later in the day after filming that last clip. And then, read the first couple chapters of The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, because my audiobook hold for the third book I intended to read that I was mentioning in the last clip still hasn't come through, so I'm just skipping to the fourth book and it'll be fine. And so I just read a couple of chapters of this. I didn't get much reading done Friday because we basically marathoned the entire new season of Selling Sunset. And so, yeah, we spent a good amount of time doing that and just chilling and relaxing. And then I did get some reading in yesterday when we were kind of hanging out doing different things. We also saw Beetlejuice yesterday, which was a lot of fun. So I've been able to get some reading in, and I'm now, 129 pages in. I'm on chapter 20. And definitely really enjoying this so far, which I'm not surprised by at all. And so in this one we're following Lucia. Lucia is a scullery maid in this noble house. We're in in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition kind of time period. She's a scullery maid in this house. The owners of the house aren't super wealthy. They're not like high up in the nobility. In fact, they're kind of barely scraping by. They're not really a part of the conversation of elite society or anything. They're trying to be and trying to move their station up, but they just aren't really there. They can only afford to have Lucia and a cook, and they can't even really afford to pay them very well or give them good conditions to work in, really, and don't treat them very well. And so Lucia, of course, is trying to find a way out. She does these little miracles and, helps just kind of make little everyday things go a little bit more easily and smoothly, so that basically they can just kind of get by, or kind of cover up little small mistakes they might make so that the owners of the house don't get angry. So for example, if the cook accidentally burns a piece of bread for dinner or something, she might do one of these little miracles to unburn the bread, and that way no one gets upset. So this is actually how the lady of the house finds out that our main character can do these little miracles, because at one point she had come down, seen some bread that was burned that was intended for dinner, got distracted in the moment, needed to go back up to do something. Was it to answer the door or whatever? She left pretty quickly, and our main character didn't notice that she had been there and seen the burned bread. Does one of these little miracles to make the bread edible again or unburned, and isn't expecting anything to happen, and then the lady of the house is coming back down to yell at them for this burned bread, and then she sees that the bread is perfectly fine, and basically in a different scenario kind of traps our main character into certainly revealing her magic and that she can do these little miracles. And so the lady of the house has her start performing or kind of do a little pony show at these dinners that they host. So for the people who are willing to come to their dinners, which isn't a lot of people in the nobility, but for the people who are willing to come, she starts performing these little miracles, and the owners of the house, the lady in particular, is hoping that that can help increase their station amongst the elite of society or whatever. And of course this draws attention, which is dangerous because the Inquisition is trying to stamp out certain types of magic, and certainly she also needs to hide her Jewish heritage, because that is another thing that the Inquisition would target her for. And so, drawing attention is not a good thing. And so her aunt works it out so that she is actually kind of brought under the wing of someone who is connected to a disgraced secretary of the king. It's unclear what happened for this secretary to become disgraced. I don't think they've explained that, but someone who is connected to him gets word of these little miracles and basically has his right-hand person start to train our main character in magic, so that she can compete in this tournament kind of thing. It seems like they're trying to have someone to be the king's magician kind of situation, in particular to help in the war against England or their tensions with England. And so I think that's the ultimate goal, is for this disgraced secretary to regain favor with the king by kind of providing the winning champion at this tournament who can be his magician to help in the war. And so our main character is just kind of thrust into this political situation and magical situation that really is beyond what she's ever thought would happen in her life. And it's all happening so quickly. And she's trying to just keep her head wrapped around what's going on with the politics and the magic and figure out how to use her magic. And she's in over her head and very frightened to figure out what this tournament is all about. But I'm super intrigued. I'm having a great time. I'm like very scared for her main character. I'm feeling the things that she's going through. And yeah, I'm intrigued, having a good time. So definitely positive vibes so far. So, which is, again, unsurprising. I do adore Leigh Bardugo's writing, and her narrator is great. It's Lauren Fortgang, who's narrated a fair number of Leigh Bardugo's books or been a part of a cast of narrators for Leigh's books before, and she's great. So I'm having a grand time. And yeah, I'm excited to keep going. There's definitely a lot to get done today, and so hopefully I can get a bit more of this read today, and yeah, we'll see what happens. And hopefully by the time I finish this, the audiobook for the other book will come through. But yeah, definitely excited so far. So I have finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, so here to wrap up this vlog. I had a lot of fun with this one. We, again, follow our character as she's going through these trials and interacting with the other participants and some of these other characters that are trying to pull the strings and have different political motivations and different things that they're trying to accomplish, and her trying to figure out who's pulling what strings, who she can trust, can she trust anyone, and it's fun. It's fun for her to figure out all the scheming and for her to do some scheming of her own to try to just get out and live her life and be able to just kind of get through and see if she can do that, or if she's going to have to be subject to the whims of other people in order to kind of put herself in the best position. And just deciding what she wants ultimately. The romantic elements were kind of meh for me, but, you know, it was still a lot of fun. The vibes, the atmosphere of Inquisition, time era Spain was just really interesting to read about. Of course, infuriating to read about, but really interesting to read about. So, yeah, I had a great time. So I'm now halfway into the next one, so I will open my next vlog talking about The Girl with No Reflection. So yeah, look forward to that, and I'll just kind of keep on going through the TBR that I chatted through at the beginning of this video. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll get this edited and up in a decent time and be able to keep going with these vlogs. So yeah, as I said, thanks again for watching. Subscribe for more bookish content. I will link information down below, including my Instagram and how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.